Alright, so a few minutes ago I made this arpeggio. Now I want to add some instruments to it, add some effects, loaded this sine wave as well. So my scheme for organizing things is typically I'll have percussion on the left side and then my instruments on the right side, and I color code things accordingly. So like my bass is purple now. I'm going to make my kick drum black, rename it Black Kick. And we can use that sine wave that I loaded in to create the kick drum sound. I also like to organize it up here in the instrument editor, so I'm going to move that down. This is good to note here. The triangle wave, this was 0, 0 until I moved it. Now 0, 0 again. I move it down here, it's 0, 2. So if you need to reorganize all your instruments, all the stuff in the track will follow. You can also type that in manually. So if I want to change this to 0, 2, you just select it with the cursor. 0, 0, 0, 2. So you can edit things. That's part of the deal with trackers, is a lot of it was, from a time when you weren't using a mouse to navigate. So you go in this grid and type out your parameters. This yellow column, you can change the volume and panning and various things. There's effects in this column, but that's not the only way to do things. If you're used to a more modern DAW style of doing automation, there's multiple ways to do it. So I'm going to drag my sine into this slot up here, hit Shift Tab to go into our kick section, F3 to look at the wave, F5 to modulation. So you can make a kick drum just out of this sine wave. Go into pitch modulation, select AHDSR. So this is like our envelope on a synthesizer, which if you have a MIDI controller with slider knobs and you want to have kind of a physical input for this, you can hit Control M, and all these highlighted sections in green, you can click on that and then hit your slider knob or whatever to map your controls. So that way you could set all these parameters to knobs and then kind of shape the sound in real time. And then of course it gives you a display here to show you what's going on. So right now we have our bass note in the middle. The bottom is an octave below, and the top is an octave above, and then it just slowly goes back to the middle. This is what it sounds like. So if we shorten that by a lot, start to have a kick drum right away. Now this bass note is still ringing out, so I want to make the same shape with the volume, so that way the instrument ends right away. So to do that, again, hold Alt and left click. You want to make sure this is highlighted. Hit Control C to copy. Go to volume. Alt, hold Alt, click this empty space here. Control V to paste it. Now we have our shape here. Looks a little different. I'm not sure what that is. I'm going to extend it out a little bit. Use the decay, just use hold. It's a little distorted at the end. Couple handy hotkeys. If you have a numpad on your keyboard, you have a slash and an asterisk above the numbers. These will jump octaves pretty quickly. So right now I'm hitting Q for that C note. The asterisk goes up an octave. Hit the slash, goes down an octave. which you can see represented here by this number to the right of the letter, which octave it's in. So I think I like octave 3. I'm going to use that spacing trick here. Let's type it in. I want 8 lines apart for my kick drum. So the cursor jumps down 8 lines. I can just hold the key down. It just puts them in right away. Every track has a mixer attached to it, where you can adjust the panning and the volume and the width. So I'm gonna lower this a little bit. You just click in here, hit -2 for -2 decibels. It's a little softer now. So that put the kick drum here in the verse. Just gonna hold Control, copy it into the chorus. The intro still doesn't have it. So I can hit right Control to play, or space. Now if I want this sequence to loop, I can hit right Alt. See, loop is active. Now it just repeats this. Same thing up here. Wherever your cursor is, and if you hit the right Enter key next to the numpad, it'll loop that section that your cursor is in. It's really useful if you need to do some surgery on a specific spot and just have it playing over and over while you're changing parameters. Alright, so one more thing I want to do. I'm going to add a hi-hat since we have our hi-hat symbols here in the file browser. Hold Alt, click here. I'm just going to scroll through these. I like that one. Alright. I want a separate track. So you can hit Control T to add a new track. You can hit Control Shift T to delete it. And how I operate, I like having my drum kit kind of track in gray next to the kick drum, and we will just put that in the chorus but not the verse. I'm going to have these spaced out similar to the kick drum, 8 lines apart, but it will go in between each kick drum. So right there in the middle, just hold the key and it'll just jump down. Okay, I don't really like the tone of that, so hit F3, we can see the hi-hat waveform. And I'm going to play it in here. We can see it's all across the frequency range, just about. I want to minimize that. Oh, it's also an octave low. I'm going to hit that asterisk above the numpad. That's better. See how that looks compared to, yeah, a little different. For modulation, you can go to cut, which means cut off, and that's for filters. There's no filter right now, so you gotta go into this drop down, list of different filters. I'm going to use a bandpass clean. And if you have your own filter plugin that you like to use, you can do that. Lower the resonance quite a bit. One good thing about this instrument editing area is if you hit Alt-D, that pops out the window. So if you have a second monitor, it's quite useful. So I'm going to do that now. So that way you can have your visual display on one screen while you're editing the sample here. So I think I like how that sounds. F1 to go back. This is still in a low octave. I want this to be C4 instead of C3. So a couple ways you can do that. I can just place the note the way it is, or I can select, I was going to say you can hit 4 to put it in that octave, but it's got to be the whole note. So now it's in the note that I want. I can just hold C. I'll just override the old ones. So now I have an intro that just has my synth patterns, the square wave and the bass. The verse introduces the kick drum, and the chorus introduces the hi-hat. So I will hit right control so that it doesn't loop. Alright, that's how you make some music. And a couple other things. If you go into settings, you can hit Control comma, open up preferences. There's a bunch of themes in here, so if you're familiar with the VST called Serum, somebody made a Serum theme in here. And there's a bunch of other ones, so if you want something brighter that looks a little more like Ableton or Logic, a bunch of options for you just out of the box, and there's some more themes that people have made that are on the Renoise forums. And you can make your own pretty easily. It's got all the settings you need here. You just select whichever section of color you want to change and put in your values. And of course you got your standard options for routing your sound card and picking up the MIDI controller and exporting files, and where your VST plugins are stored and all that kind of stuff. So this program does have pretty modern capabilities, but if you want to do things the old way as well, it can do both. So that is Renoise. Hope you learned stuff.